Welcome to episode 69 of the Family Answer Man podcast, where today we're looking at dealing with relational and psychological challenges brought on after retirement from a biblical worldview on the Family Answer Man podcast. I'm your host, David Orgis, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby, pastor, educator, marriage and family therapist, and resident expert in the Family Answer Man podcast, where we tackle tough questions that families face and discuss practical solutions that really do work. Now, this podcast is not a therapy session. We're not able to give specific advice to your situations, but we do believe that mental and spiritual health are very serious issues, and family dynamics can be and often are very complicated. So, for in-depth answers to your questions, we encourage you to seek professional counsel specific to your unique circumstances. Now, right now, if you would take just a second, if you're watching on YouTube, if you will do all the YouTube things and hit the bell, subscribe, comment, so you never miss an episode of the Family Answer Man. And if you're listening on a podcast, on your favorite podcast platform, just take a moment to rate us, review us, follow us, subscribe to this channel, and that really does help us out, and we appreciate it so much. If our content has helped you at all, please share the Family Answer Man with your friends and your family so that they can join you on this journey of building stronger, healthier, and happier families. Well, Dr. Mark, it is good to be here with you today, and we are going to be talking about really a big topic, one that I think everybody looks forward to on some point. We're talking about retirement,
right?
But maybe not everybody has traditionally been, we all look forward to it, but maybe not prepared for what actually happens in retirement. Is that something that you've seen a lot? I know a lot of people were forced into some early retirements in the recent years. Is that something that you come across?
Retirement is one of those things that all of us look forward to some degree at some point in life. We work hard, 35, 40 years, the same job or same career. And then you look forward to retiring where you can have time for yourself and not have to basically punch a clock every day, as they say, or meet all the demands that come with your particular career. And some look forward to it, and I think we should look forward to it to some degree. The problem is that though we may look forward to it, many do not plan well for it. And though they may plan well, say financially, which is good.
You hear a lot about that.
Exactly, which is what everybody kind of thinks about when they think about retirement. Do I have enough money in my 401k? Have I saved enough? Have I invested well? Am I out of debt? And all the things that come financially. Many of us do not think about the psychological impact of retirement. And we'll unpack that more in a moment. But the reality is that retirement is a very life-changing experience. And with that life change, if you're not careful, can create some depression and some anxiety.
Okay.
And so most of our listening audience is around the retirement age. Either you're about to enter into a retirement age, say 62 or older, or you're a few years from it, but you're getting there. Or your family, namely your parents or your grandparents, are getting to that age. And so the point is retirement is something that affects all of us. It impacts all of us because as your life changes, as your income changes, as you have more free time, et cetera, it's going to impact, your marriage. It's going to impact how you deal with your kids, your adult children, if you will. It's going to impact, how you deal with your now free time. And so if you don't plan, if you don't prepare, all of a sudden, you may have the first 2 weeks, the first 2 months going, hey, this is great. And then you're going, I can only golf, so many days a week. I can only fish so many days a week. I can only, clean out my garage and cut my grass, so many days a week. Now what do I do? And sometimes, the wife or the husband goes, wow, you're here a lot now, aren't you? It's kind of like every time I look up, there you are. You used to be gone all day. And I used to go get my nails done, or I could go to the ladies' Bible study. But now you're tagging along everywhere I go, and I'm not used to this. And so there's some change that comes with retirement in the marriage and the relationship. You don't have that income or maybe that bonus or that overtime that you used to get when you were working. Of course, that makes a difference as well. And so if you don't plan well, retirement can create some mental, emotional, and relational problems that impact the family, that impact the person who's retired, that impacts the entire family system. Even if your kids are out of the house, it impacts them as well, because now they're going, hey, how come mom and dad are always over here? How come they're always coming by? Why don't they, call before they come over now? I want to spend the weekend, cutting my grass, but dad shows up and wants to watch the ball game or whatever. And so there's these, concerns and this dynamic that occurs when retirement hits. And if you have not planned or prepared well, it can be emotionally, relationally, and psychologically, devastating in some cases.
Well, that's what we're talking about today, and the reason is because the question that came in is directly related to this issue of retirement and post-retirement,
Sure.
how we deal with it and adjust. And if you want to get in touch with us and you want to send in your question, you can do that. FamilyAnswerman@liveoak.church. You can submit those at FamilyAnswerman@liveoak.church and email us directly. So the question that was submitted is this: says, my husband has been retired for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. We have a good retirement. We are somewhat healthy, and we have had a really good life. But now he's depressed and suffers with anxiety.
Wow.
And doesn't want to do anything anymore. It's like he's given up on life. Is there any hope?
This is far more common than we want to admit, far more common than we talk about, and far more common, therefore, than we realize. And that is, men especially, when they retire, if they have not planned well, not just financially, but also relationally and maybe in other areas of their life, it can create a sense of depression, because retirement is a major change and therefore requires lots of planning. Yes, it requires financial planning. How much money do I have to live on now? Logistic planning. Where do we live? Do we move closer to the kids? Do we make sure that our house is paid off? So logistically, financially, relationally, who's involved now with us? Is it just going to be you and your spouse, or do you move in or move closer to your kids? And then mentally, what do I do, and where do I go, and when do I start this new change of life? So the reality is that understand it's a major change, and with each major change, and this is the point, there is going to be a mild depression. With each major change of life, especially a change that is this impactful of the family. You are leaving your career, you're leaving your job of 25, 35, 45 years.
It's a long time.
That's a long time. And you become a part of your career and your job and your vocation. It becomes a part of you, especially for men, because men identify in many cases with what they do. From the time you were a little boy, you were asked the question, what do you want to be?
Right.
Not what do you want to do, but what do you want to be when you grow up? And so we oftentimes will equate our vocation with who we are as a man. This is our identity. And so when you leave that, in many cases, you have now left your identity in to some degree.
Right.
You're no longer the policeman, the fireman, the pastor. You're no longer, the attorney, the physician. You're no longer the farmer. You're no longer, the manager. You're no longer, the plant supervisor, whatever vocation you've held. You're now retired. And so for a lot of people, that feels good at first. But then the question is, so who am I? Now, what do I do? And so this creates a depression if you're not careful. So this major change comes in. And so again, how it creates depression, many will ask, is simply this. Your routine has changed. You used to get up every morning bright and early, you went to work, you did your job, you did it well, you came home, you talked about, the day, you talked about your work, you talked about, the pluses and the minuses, the joys and the frustrations of your work. And then now with retirement, that's all gone. And for some people, they go, hey, yeah, I'm glad that's all gone. I don't have the rat race anymore. But yet and still, it was your routine.
Right.
It was who you were.
And no matter how spontaneous we are, routine is good for
we love
us as human
routine.
beings.
Yeah. And so not only that, but your purpose has changed. So we live by what is our purpose.
Yeah.
We want to have purpose. We need to have purpose to get out of bed every morning. What is my purpose? And so when you retire, your purpose has now changed. As we said before, your identity has changed. And for some, your finances have changed. Like we said before, there's no longer the Christmas bonus, the overtime, the quarterly, incentive or whatever it may be with your company. And so the finances have changed, so you don't have the money maybe that you once did. Now, there are some retirement plans, that are just amazing, and they will say, hey, I'm making more money now than I did when I was working. Okay, God bless those retirement plans. But the reality is that most retirement plans that I'm familiar with basically say you may get close to what you were making, but not quite. And so there's a change there. Not only that, but what to do or how to fill in your free time. that becomes a challenge.
Right. It seems like that would be something that'd be really easy to figure out. How do you want to fill your free time? You mentioned a couple of them. Let's go golf. I want to go fish. I want to hunt. I want to, I want to wax the car. I want to work on the project car.
And all those things are good, but the reality is that those things can only be done so many times, in a 7-day week. And two, some of your friends may not be retired, or some of your family members may not be retired. The people that you have associated with and done things with and enjoyed life with, they're still working. I know I've had, colleagues and friends who have retired who call me up and say, hey, it's, Thursday morning, let's go do this or that. And I'm going, I got to go to work.
I got a full schedule. That's right.
I got a full schedule. And so there's that. And then, as I said earlier, you're around your spouse more. And you're perhaps around your spouse now more than you were when y'all were dating, because you're not going into work every day. And so there's that new dynamic. Also, there is a feeling of, am I, smothering, my family? Am I smothering my spouse? Am I smothering my kids? Am I going by too often? So all of these changes, and this is the point, create a depression in the heart, in the mind, of people in a lot of cases. Most people are really good about masking, this depression. But when you start seeing these symptoms, beware. When a person cannot concentrate, when they are concerned about how well they're making decisions, if they have a diminished ability to think, or they really can't make decisions, that's a sign you need to be aware of. That's a sign of depression in many cases. Secondly, if you're feeling worthless, you're feeling like I used to, go into the office and people, really respected, who I was and what I did, but now I don't have that. And now there's this feeling of I'm no longer needed. I feel worthless. I don't feel a sense of connection to anyone. Maybe there's some inappropriate guilt, so there's this feeling of helplessness and worthlessness. Thirdly, a loss of energy. Used to, you'd get up, you'd have your breakfast, you'd have your coffee, you maybe exercise a little bit before you go to work, and now you had all this energy, but now you don't get up as early.
You don't have to change your clothes.
You don't have to change your clothes. You don't eat breakfast like you should. You have this loss of energy and fatigue, and that's a sign of depression. When you feel agitated all the time, you're just kind of on edge and just kind of snippy, if you will, as some people put it, towards people, that's a sign of depression. Insomnia. Used to, you knew you had to go to bed at a certain time, you had to get up at a certain time, you made sure you got, 6, 7, 8 hours sleep, hopefully more. But insomnia now is taken over. You can't sleep. You stare at the ceiling fan, all night long kind of thing. And insomnia, again, is a sign of depression in many cases. Weight changes, gaining weight because you're just eating all the time, or losing weight because you have no appetite. So weight changes that occur, that fluctuate, 5, 10, 15 pounds in a short period of time is something to be mindful of. When you've lost interest, you golf for 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months, then you get tired of golfing. You get tired of going to the same golf, course or whatever, and you get tired of, golfing or tennis or whatever it is you're doing, or fishing, especially if it's cold outside. You just get kind of a loss of interest. And that too is a sign of depression. When you feel sad, empty, and maybe even fearful, is this how life's going to be for me? Is this all that's left for me? What do I look forward to 5, 10 years from now? Is this all there is? And when you start having those feelings, that is a sign of depression. When you feel God's not near, you're not praying like you used to. You're not going to church like you used to. You're not reading your Bible. You thought, hey, when I retire, I'm going to read my Bible more. I'm going to pray more. I'm going to go to church more often. I don't have to worry about sleeping late on Sunday mornings. My only day to get some rest. And I'm going to get up and go to church more. I'm going to bring the grandkids. But all of a sudden now you don't feel like that. You feel like God's not nearby. And so these are all signs of depression. And finally, you start turning down help or turning down invitations. You become non-cooperative with those around you. So those are the symptoms of depression, which again is very common for those who are in retirement. But also, retirement creates some symptoms of anxiety, which is similar to depression, but yet still very different. The symptoms of anxiety is that you're afraid. You're afraid everything's going to go wrong. We're not going to have enough money. What if my health goes bad? What if the economy collapses? What if something crashes in the stock market? How is this going to impact my retirement? I've met people who are planning towards retirement. Are going, you know what? In the last 2 years, we've been losing $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, in our retirement savings. What's going on there? And so there's this fear of everything going wrong. Therefore, a fear of losing control. When you were at work, you'd say, well, you know what? Stock market this, stock market that, but I'm working, I get a paycheck, we're going to make through, we'll pay our bills. But when you don't have that job to kind of lean on, you feel like I'm out of control. You feel like others are in control of your money, and that causes anxiety. And some physical symptoms, when you start having more chest pain, you start sweating more often without doing any real physical activity, when you're irritable, when you're unsettled. And then this leads to, for some people who have some obsessive compulsive, tendencies, now you have these crazy persistent thoughts. You try to suppress these thoughts with other thoughts or actions, and you recognize that these are thoughts that, again, are the product of your own mind. They're intrusive, and so now the compulsions occur. You start hand washing more. You start checking, the locks more often. You start, counting everything. You start, trying to reduce your stress and prevent other dreadful situations. And this is, again, that obsessive compulsive reaction to the anxiety in your life. For some people, they may have some PTSD triggers, meaning maybe they grew up poor and they worked hard all their life so they wouldn't be poor, but now they have to watch every penny.
Wow.
Now they have to only buy things when they're on sale. Now they have to go to the cafeteria or to the restaurant or whatever, for the early bird special or whatever, And so because they have to watch every penny, and that triggers for some people that PTSD of when they were a child and they had to be very careful of every penny.
Wow.
And so there's a lot going on here that a lot of people don't understand or don't recognize or don't think about as they're planning for retirement. So what do we do? What do we do? There's some things that we're needing to do as we get closer to retirement. And one of the first things and we'll talk about this more in just a moment, but it's to plan.
Okay.
And again, not just financially, but maybe you need to plan. For example, let's talk to the pastors for a moment. Maybe this is a good time for you to plan maybe doing some evangelistic work, or maybe you're going to fill the pulpit more often, or maybe you're going to do some mission work, or maybe you can do some consulting. I think one of the great areas of ministry that is needed that we don't do a whole lot of, churches need consultants.
Yeah.
I mean, major corporations have consultants. But I guarantee you, so many problems in churches and church splits could have been avoided had there been some consultant that could have maybe eased the pain and the heartache amongst the congregation and pastor.
Well, that's such a great point. I mean, even the people that are at the top of their game need a coach, right? Peyton Manning needed a coach.
Exactly.
Drew Brees needed a coach.
Right.
Tom Brady had coaches.
Exactly.
Even the pastors that have it all together, that have been in ministry for years, can benefit from.
And so
that's a great point.
And so if you have a pastor who was a pastor 25, 35, 45 years, what a great resource this person could be. Because again, I'm trying to be as kind, as I can to the laity, but they've never pastored.
Right.
The people in the pew, great people, love the Lord, love their Bible, pray a lot, which is wonderful, but they've never pastored.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so they're trying to understand church administration from a position they've never been in. And so sometimes the point is that consultant may be helpful. So again, if you're a pastor and you think about retiring, maybe you can create a consulting, business of sorts. The point is to plan. Again, maybe areas that you haven't thought about, maybe this is a great time to write that book, a great time to be an associate somewhere on a part-time basis, but whatever that may look like, which creates purpose. You don't want to lose your purpose.
Yeah.
When you lose your purpose, whether you're 65 or 25, if you lose your purpose, life becomes very, very difficult, which means you need to gain new confidences. And we'll talk about this more in a moment. But the more confident you are about who you are in your retirement, about what you want to do, what you want to contribute, what you want to be a part of, the less your anxiety is going to be. You also want to maybe take up maybe some new venture or learn something new. This may be a great time to learn that language you've always wanted to learn, learn Hebrew, go to Israel, okay, after you've learned a little Hebrew. Learn Spanish and take that trip to Cozumel or whatever. The point is that this is a great time to learn, and a great time to learn maybe with your spouse. So the point is this: regain your confidence, because most people who have retired, it's almost like, and this is how some have explained it, it's almost like being 12 or 13 again, meaning this: I'm in a new area of life I've never been in before. It's exciting on one hand, but very scary on the other.
Yeah.
When you're 12 or 13, you're entering adolescence. You're entering maybe high school. You've never been in this area before. It's exciting on one hand, but you're very uncertain about who you are and what you offer on the other hand. That's kind of true with retirement.
Wow.
It's an exciting time in life, but you've never been here before. And so learn how to regain your confidence by creating whatever your purpose may be. Also, begin to really, really examine your own faith. This is a great time, not only in the sense that you're wanting to do that as a child of God, as someone who is wanting to get stronger in their Christianity and in their faith, but let's just be honest. You got more years behind you than ahead of you when you hit retirement.
Yeah.
This may be a great time to really examine, where am I with the Lord? What is it that the Lord has taught me over the years? What is it that I can do for the Lord that would be a blessing? So in other words, ask yourself, what's God's will for my life right now? And really pursue that. Also, unpack your relationships. Now that you're retired, unpack those relationships with your children. Where do they fit into this new area of your life? Your grandchildren, your old friends, your siblings, and in some cases, maybe even your aging parents. There are a lot of people who are in their 60s who have parents that are still up and going and growing, well into their mid-80s, and that's an important part, too, of your life. So, again, it's never too late to learn something new, never too late to acquire new skills, never too late to grow in your faith, and also, too, talking about acquiring new skills, I met one person not that long ago who went into retirement around age 63, 64, and they discovered that there are some universities that after the age of 60, I believe, you can go to that school for tuition free.
Oh, wow. That's pretty great.
And they went to the law school of this university tuition free.
Holy smokes.
And everybody said to them, why are you studying law in your 60s? You'll be 66, 67 by the time you graduate. And their reply was, I'm going to be 66 or 67 anyway. Why not go ahead and pursue something I've always wanted to do? And so here's this person, in their 60s, going to school with people primarily in their 20s, but having the time of their life.
Yes, indeed.
And it's free. And it's something they've always wanted to do. So my point is, and they are just as happy and as fulfilled, and they know their purpose, and they're meeting some, people the age of their grandchildren, and they're just having the time of their life. Volunteer. This is a great time to really start planning on looking to do that volunteering you've always wanted to do. That substitute teacher, that fill in, as a pastor in the pulpit. Teaching that Sunday school class, doing that Bible study at the local cafe, creating a community whereby you are doing the Bible study, you're offering your services as a pastor or as a retired attorney or as a retired physician or whatever it may be, that you're doing. But again, you have so much wisdom. There are so many people that need to learn from you. This is why a lot of people are doing a lot of online courses. And they're creating these online courses, and they are making some pretty good income by doing these online courses, because they have been a manager of a company, and they know how to be a good leader, and they teach leadership courses, or they've been a pastor, or they've been a physician, or whatever. So again, create those courses, go online and do that, share that. Yes, still travel still travel, still do that, still enjoy, some time off, still golf, still rest. You don't have to go 100 miles an hour like you used to, and still pace yourself, but remind yourself that this is a time whereby you need to really give it some restructuring. So here's kind of recapping. Here's what I want to encourage everyone who has retired or who is planning on retiring in the next, say, 2 to 4 years. Number one, spend some time in prayer. That's always the first go-to. Sometimes for a lot of us, it's our last go-to, but it needs to be the first go-to. So spend some time in prayer. God, what would you have me do? Open the doors for me. Give me a vision that I may know how you want me to spend these best years of my life. Let the rest of your life be the best of your life.
Yes, indeed.
So prayer. Number two, plan. What does retirement look like for you? Not just financially, but again, vocationally, or as a volunteer, or as a person who wants to learn some new skills, or a person who wants to teach some new skills to those who are coming up. Once again, in our culture, I don't think we revere, if you will, those who are older and wiser like other cultures do. Because those who have worked at the same job 35, 45 years, they have insight and experience they can pass on to the next generation. Number three, prepare. Prepare what that's going to look like. If you want to get an idea of what retirement's like, if you can do this, if your company will allow you, if your church will allow you, if your organization will allow you, if you can take off a month and say, okay, this is what retirement's going to look like. What am I going to do in this month? Okay. I may do some golfing. Yeah, I may do some fishing. Yeah, I may go to the camp. Yeah, I may go see the grandkids. I may, take a trip or two. But then what? Yeah. And so that month will give you a taste, a foretaste, if you will.
Yeah, just a test drive retirement, right?
Exactly, of what retirement may look like. And if after day 4 or 5 you're just climbing the walls, if after day 10 your wife is saying to you, your husband's saying to you, you need to go do something.
You got to find somewhere to go.
You got to try something different. You got to get out of the house. Then you know that maybe you have not planned well or prepared well for retirement. But if you're going, hey, this was amazing. We did a lot of amazing things. We did some fun things, we helped some missionaries. We did this, we did that. I filled in in the pulpit one Sunday, and it was great. I have, 35 years of sermons, and gosh, I picked one out, and it was brand new to them. So yeah, then that's a wonderful thing. Also pursue the things you want to do, maybe you haven't done in a while, always wanted to do, take that course, teach that course, but then, participate in those areas that you've always thought about, hey, this would be a fun thing to do. And then surround yourself with people. Some of the people that you would hang out with during retirement, maybe siblings and cousins, maybe friends from work, maybe friends from church. But this is a great way to say, hey, this is where we get together every Friday night and we barbecue, or we get together every Saturday night and watch the ball game or whatever. But who's going to be in your circle? What family, what friends are going to be in your circle? And then last of all, pause and reflect. Pause and reflect. How is this going for us? What do I need to change? What do I need to do differently? What is it that I can start doing that, again, is working? What do I need to stop doing that hasn't worked? Pause and reflect. And if you do that, you can make retirement, again, some of the best years of your life. I loved it when Drew Brees, wrote his book called Finishing Strong. Yeah. I think so many of us, struggle with finishing strong because we haven't done these things we talked about. We haven't prayed, we haven't planned, we haven't prepared, we haven't participated, we haven't pursued. And when we do those things, we can, finish strong. Real quickly, though, a little shout out to our people in north of Baton Rouge. I took a little drive to Monroe, and it was amazing to note that I'm in St. Francisville, and I'm picking up this radio station. I'm in Woodville, and I'm picking up the radio station. I'm in Natchez, I'm picking up the radio station. In Vidalia and Faraday. So if you're in Natchez, Vidalia, Faraday, Woodville, St. Francisville, we would love to hear from you. We hear a lot from the greater Baton Rouge area, which is great. But I had no idea that this signal from this radio program, as I was traveling to Monroe, went all the way almost to Monroe. It was amazing to know. Sound radio kept me company my entire drive. So let us hear from you. God bless you.
We appreciate you. We are glad that you joined us today, and we hope that this episode of The Family Answer Man will inspire you, to make changes that will lead to a stronger, healthier, happier family.